Hi everyone, it's Mandy here and welcome to Resilience at Sea. I'm absolutely delighted today to be here with one of my dear friends and someone that's had a huge influence on me in yachting and is one of the few captains that have had me back every year to teach the whole crew, whether they've just joined or they've been there for 10 or 20 years, to do the ship captain's medical care on board ship. Every single year without fail. And I've known Phil for about 12 years now. Since at the time when we first met, he was running one boat. Now he's running and managing many, quite a lot. And anyway, I'll just let Phil introduce himself. Phil, who are you?
Yeah, who am I? Just an old sea dog. So, been, I guess, professionally sailing, and using that term, I mean, sailing vessels and motor yachts since 1983. So October 83 is when we first started operating our first charter sailboat out of Antigua. Prior to that, growing up in Sydney in the eastern suburbs and sailing out of Double Bay and Wire Sailing Club from about 10 years old, and doing what everybody else did when at that age, sailing Sabos and Manly Juniors and Herons. And then we got into, 12-foot skiffs, cherubs, 12-foot skiffs, 18-foot skiffs, until you decide that girls are a better sport. But then I guess around I was doing semi-professional sailing on the yachts as well as sailing the skiffs. So at a fairly young age, 23, we were involved in an Admiral's Cup. And prior to that, a couple of one-ton cups and so forth, and go over to Europe and race for guys like Peter Briggs and other fellows that were in the sort of international regattas. But I saw this migration of boats after these regattas, particularly the Admiral's Cup. I'd see all these swans and so forth, getting ready to head down to the Caribbean. It's like, oh, where's that? What are they doing? Oh, they're going down to do the charter season. So after the 83 Admiral's Cup, which I sailed on Bondi Tram with Dennis O'Neill and Hugh Trahan and a bunch of other guys, we decided to take a bit of time off work and head down to the Caribbean. We met a guy in England, a Welshman who had a Swan 46, and he said, yeah, okay, children, yeah, you take that boat down to the Caribbean and we'll do a few races and we'll do some charters. So that's where it all started, 1983. The Swan was still a small boat. Swan 46 was a small boat then. The biggest boat in the bay, I think, was a Swan 65, but still it was very, very much the beginning of of our career in chartering. And chartering had been going on in the islands there since the early 70s. So, wasn't new. There were a few veterans there, and, it was a steep learning curve, but we had a great time. We did a few charters, did a few races, and then that was the start of it. And from there, the boats, obviously your charter guests you meet, and it's the same old story. You meet a charter guest, he likes you, he trusts you. Hey, let's build our own boat. So the boats slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then and then the programs changed slightly, where you meet a guy and he wants to go around the world, and that's everybody's dream, right? To take a sailboat around the world. So we did that as well.
Fantastic. And as you have progressed since 1983, what do you think are some of the biggest changes in the industry?
Oh, apart from the boats getting bigger and bigger, of course, the money, they became professional, the licensing, I had an Australian commercial ticket, or the beginning of the lower level Australian commercial ticket. But that's when I can't remember when that came in, when the MCA or the MSA, as it used to be called, changed to the MCA. They're the governing body. The PYA got involved today, you know, we should all be licensed, which was a good idea. And I think around the mid 90s is when, you know, the light came on, hey, we've got to license all these guys. And, you know, it became more professional. So the MCA 3,000 ton ticket was a big deal back in sort of like the 95. I think I got mine in 96 or 97, and I was one of the first guys. So in terms of how's it changed, it's become more regulated, and the licensing was put in place then. So we're talking, you know, when was that? 30 years ago, almost. So yeah, and the boats, yeah, that was a good thing because the boats got bigger and bigger, and had that not happened, you know, we'd be having these, you know, certainly experienced jockeys, but sometimes inexperienced jockeys belting around on these 300, 400 foot motor yachts, you know, 100 meter plus motor yachts. So I think to answer your question there, it became more professional. The licensing made a big difference, and you know, it was a lot more structured, and you know, it's you know, the boats got bigger, and there was more money involved, and the salaries went up, and you know, everyone went, wow, you know, we want a piece of that. So I think that's probably the biggest.
And one thing I've noticed on your boat that is really unique, and I'd love to see it everywhere, is you and Bev, your wife, when she was working with you as well, created such a family environment, and you retained crew, and also those crew would be then nurtured and brought up. And I've witnessed this many times. I've seen a brand new deckhand of yours that then steps up through the ranks, and then you find them a job as a captain, and then they steal some of your crew, and then they basically create another family environment. But the way I've always loved sitting in your crew mess, you've always had really good chefs too, so I've always loved lunch, but sitting in the crew mess, there's no phones. I might have even started working with you before we had phones, but no one's glued to their phones. People are having conversations, and it just feels really supportive. I know I've said to you a number of times, Phil, if I wasn't teaching medicine, I would be applying for a job on your boat. Has that been intentional, or is that just the way you are?
I don't know. So when we're interviewing crew, you know, you're going to go to sea with these people. So you certainly, you know, I always say you definitely want to know who you're going to get into a life raft with, right? Worst case scenario. So, you know, when we're looking at CVs, you're not hiring a piece of paper, you're hiring the personality. And I've been, you know, if more than once criticized, you know, by my chief officer or you know, co-captain, hey, you know, why are you hiring this guy? You know, this guy's CV is much, much better. And I said, well, yeah, but you know, I'm not hiring that piece of paper. I'm hiring that guy because, you know, he's got what we want. So, and we would spend a lot of time interviewing and being really careful about who we were going to hire as crew. You know, and beyond that, you have your crew, and you know, I know what their parents are up to. I know the family dog's name. You know, I know when they went to school, and you know, you've got I think it's a thing in management where you know you don't sit in your office up there on the 5th floor and pontificate. You know, you go down there and talk to them, walk around on the deck, and you know, go into the laundry and talk to the laundry guy, and you know, go, you know, talk to the girls, talk to the guys, talk to the engineers, talk to everybody. But I think, you know, again, it's in the interview process, we always make sure that we know who we're hiring. And, you know, the sort of joke is, you know, I know who I'm going to get in the life raft with, you know, I know who I'm not going to get in the life raft with, but, you know, we try and pick crew that it doesn't really matter. You know, if you're going to, you know, and you've sailed a lot, and, you know, if things are going pear-shaped, you know, 1 hour on a boat where it's not a comfortable situation is a long time. You know, if, for instance, you know, if you have an altercation on board, or you have an awkward situation, will you buy someone the ticket home today? You say, hey, look, pack your bags and see you later. It's not working out. You don't say, let's do it tomorrow, because, overnight there could be a lot go on in that 12 or 18-hour period. But look, getting back to, again, your question about how we're very selective with the crew that we've hired. We interview them, we ask them a lot of personal questions about their family and find out a little bit about them, and they stay a long time. And you're right, there's quite a few that have, of the guys in particular, that have gone on and are now captains and are now poaching our crew. So yeah, how do we do that? I think it's just because we care about who we have on the boat, and particularly with the bigger boats now, where we've got about 55, I think, on the payroll of the 100-meter boat. At any one time there's 30 plus on board, but with the rotations and whatnot, it gets harder and harder. But I'm walking around and talking to everybody still, and the boss will call me up and go, hey Phil, where are you? I said, oh, I'm down in the laundry. He said, what the hell are you doing down there? And I said, well, I'm talking to the laundry ninja, and then finding out what's happening over there in Thailand, where he lives, how his family's doing, how his wife's doing, how his kids are doing. But I think, maybe that's, a lot of people don't have time for that, but that's, I think, made a big difference in us keeping crew for a long time.
And so, just quickly, if you were, who would you want to be in a life raft with? How would you work that out in a 20-minute or hour interview? What are the main characteristics?
There's no formula for that. I get the life raft with every one of them. The chief officer generally does the splitting up, the divvying up of who goes where, but we split it up so we have equal amount of sort of management level, and so I wouldn't be in the same life raft as the chief officer. He'd have one life raft, I'd have the other, and just sort of balance it out. I mean, in that, we do have a roster for it. We do have, you're in, what particular life raft you get into. It's very defined, and we drill that a lot. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, you do drill that a lot. And going back a step, you mentioned when there could be a critical incident that would require immediate dismissal, because you just can't risk the extra 12 or 18 hours thinking about it or seeing how things go tomorrow, without telling stories and going into the narratives of those things that have happened on your vessels. What would be some examples of that you would have to make a very hard decision to say this person just has to leave?
I'm not talking about an illness situation. That's if anybody's sick on board, we get them off straight away as soon as we can to better medical assistance, or the best medical assistance we can. But I don't know, there are people, they're on board. Most of our team are on rotation, and 2 months on, 2 months off, but 2 months can be a long way from home. You've got a wife and, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 young kids there, if it's a guy, or, and then the home pressures can build up. That's not, if there's a situation that arises where someone's got to get back to their family, we have a family first policy, which is absolutely backed 100% by the boss. If there's any family issues, we get them off the boat, we fly them home, ask questions later. But the scenario I'm talking about is if you have 2 people that either 2 deckhands or 2 stews or whatever that don't see eye to eye, or something happens on board where, there's a sort of questionable what's the word?
Actions.
Yeah, well, no, more of a happenstance or whatever, where you've got to take action, and instead of, if it's a boy-girl thing, or that's a good example, the boy-girl thing, where they go out they come back, and it's a he said she said thing. And we had that situation happen a couple of years ago on one of our boats, and the captain correctly just got both of those off the boat, within an hour into separate hotels, and started the process of, okay, what happened? What's your side of the story? But there's others that where people just don't get on, and if they don't get on, or they have a hissy fit and say, look, this isn't going to work, and obviously they're not, it's been, you kind of know, you can smell that a mile away, you think, oh, this is going to be, we're not happy with this guy or girl, and you generally, those things take care of themselves. I always say they take care of themselves. Just give them a little bit more time and they'll decide that they don't want to be here. But if it blows up into a situation, you want to get them off the boat straight away. Say, look, here's a ticket home. It's for tomorrow, but here's a ticket for a hotel tonight. Once you're off the boat straight away. I don't know. Is that what you were asking? It's it hasn't happened that often, but I'll bet it's happened on every boat. Every one of the 3,000 or 4,000 mega yachts or super yachts that are out there, where there's a situation where people go, hey, I don't want to be here.
It's so hard because in a medical situation, it's a non-negotiable. If you've broken your neck or fractured your femur or had a heart attack, you cannot argue the point you need to be evacuated, or if the patient is, they're clearly in shock and still need to be evacuated. When it's a personal situation, or there's been, some sort of traumatic event involved, it takes a lot to make those decisions. Now, when you have a major incident on board, whether it's psychological, someone needing to be immediately dismissed, or a medical incident, do you brief and debrief the crew after these incidents?
Yeah, we have a protocol for that, and that's what we train, not only ourselves, the chief officer, and the sort of junior, the chief stew and so forth, but the management company is also involved in that, so they, we have a protocol we follow, and the debrief part of it, you've got to be careful what happens in the debrief there too. You've got to make sure that you, like if it's a boy-girl thing, or if it's a boy-boy thing, or whatever, the two guys are just having sort of fisticuffs on the aft deck and you've got to get rid of them. They're both, innocent. But there's a debrief, and you learn from every situation. And actually, the captain that was involved in the boy-girl thing a few years ago, I learned a lot from him, and I kept all his emails backwards and forwards, thinking, man, this guy's right on it, and I called up the management company. I said, you want to take note of what this guy's done? He's handled it absolutely perfectly. It was like, he was very diplomatic. He didn't take sides, and he worked through a very methodical way that he handled it. So no one was in the right, no one was in the wrong, and I thought that was pretty good. But the debrief side of it, of course, you sit around, and it's not the whole crew. It's, you have your department heads there and go, okay, this is what happened. This is how we handle it. Could we do it any differently? What do you think? And get their input as well. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just had a moment for phone.
Yeah, that's all right.
What you said. So on that note, resilience is defined as, the ability to bounce back in the face of adversity. And what would you think the main ways you can build a resilient crew? How have you been able to prioritize bouncing back after these situations we've just discussed? Because obviously when people are evacuated, sent away, not everyone's going to agree. Sometimes people are going to, miss their cabin mate or their best friend, or they might not want them to leave. In after the debrief, how do you bring resilience?
How do we what? Sorry, you dropped out there for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So how do you bring in that resilience? How do you get the whole crew to bounce back after a major incident? What would be the top?
You know, I mean, it's yeah, you deal with it fairly quickly. The debrief to the whole crew. Okay, look, it didn't work out. Someone says not coming back. You know, if you can give a reason for it, if it's an open, you know, unresolved case, you can't say much. But if it's okay, look, it didn't work out. They were having troubles at home, and generally that's what causes it. You know, they don't want to be there any longer. You know, something is telling them they don't want to be there. You know, whether their dog's sick or their mum's sick or their sister or brother or whatever, or they're just not. They don't want to be in the middle of the Pacific, or you know, they want to be at a dock more, not so much at anchor and not chartering. I don't know. You just, hey, look, you know, we're a team here. We've always been a good team. That didn't work out, but we're not going to hold anybody responsible for it, or we're not going to blame anybody for it. We're just going to, you know, harden up and just keep doing our job because we're busy, you know. And I think because we were so busy with all these boats, you know, we were either chartering or had guests on, and you know, we had a lot of stuff going on. There wasn't really much time to sit around and go, oh, you know, or the kids weren't in the crew mess going, oh wow, you know, what's going to happen? No, they were just too busy, and I think that helped us a lot. Didn't give them time to think about it so much. But you know, we dealt with it swiftly. We just sort of said, okay, this has happened, and yeah, that doesn't, you know, some people aren't suited to it, and let's keep moving on. And if you've ever got any problems or similar problems, come and talk to us about it. You know, the door's always open, and that is really important, that the crew can feel like they can come and talk to you at any time. You know, and I said, look, if you don't like, if you don't want to talk to me, talk to the chief officer, or if you don't want to talk to him, talk to the chief steward or the second steward, or tell somebody. And you know, if you're not comfortable talking to me, somebody is comfortable talking to me, so they'll, you know, come around, you know, do that. But it's, yeah, the resilience side of it, I think, yeah, people, you know, the crew on the boats, they're well aware of their surroundings, and they know some people, you know, can't handle it, and they've heard stories and seen firsthand, you know, where people haven't worked out on a boat. So unless they're very, very green, most people have been through that situation in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side of that, have you ever experienced like flow state on board where everyone's just working super well together? It's the sort of team you want to just keep together forever. Everything's just basically working like clockwork.
Yeah. And what? And something happens to change that? What's the question?
No, just have you ever had a crew and a team or a week or a season where everything is just working super well?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we were on the 74-meter boat we were chartering, and we had the same crew for, I think there's probably one change a year out of 20 crew. So, but we were busy, we were chartering, we had a great owner, and you know, if a charter came up, the owner would go, hey, go ahead, charter the boat. I'll go on, you know, we would charter for our boat for 700,000 a week, and he'd go and charter some other boat for 400,000 a week. And so he was making money, and you know, we were making money, and of course, you know, we did a good job, so the gratuities were high, and that was a very sort of strong 2 or 2.5 years, or I think it went into 3 years chartering that boat, where we had repeat clients, so we knew what was coming, and we didn't have any crew turnover whatsoever. Everyone was working super hard. You know, we were busting the hours of rest, but making up for it when we could. You know, which you're allowed to do. You know, if you do go over your hours of rest, then when you get some downtime, you make up for it. You give them an extra day or two off. But that went on and on for 3 years, I think, probably even 4 years, I'd say, where we had a great boat. It was a very popular charter boat. We had a great owner, and everyone was making good money in terms of tips. And a situation would come up where, hey, we just get off a 2-week charter. You go, okay, guys, we've got 4 days off till the next charter, and then so everyone would clean the boat up. We'd go out and we'd have a meal out somewhere, and the phone would ring. And so someone would want to sort of squeeze in a 2-day or 3, not 2-day, but 3 or 4 day charter before our next one. I go, hey guys, got some good news and some bad news. Like, we don't have 4 days or 5 days off anymore. We've got a charter starting tomorrow. And everyone just powered. Everyone was, yeah, okay, let's do it. To a man, they would do that. There was no grumpiness about, oh, no way, I just worked my butt off for 2 weeks straight. Everyone was really good. I guess we were lucky. They were all sort of, I've got to say that, mature crew. So there was no young, I don't think there was anybody under 25 in that crew. They were all around 26, 27. So they'd all, they had a goal, right? They were all trying to make money and further their careers. The guys were definitely working towards their tickets, and the crew, they'd all been through school and university, and they were adults. So everyone knew what the deal was. So yeah, I'd say that was a pretty good run from 2015, 16, 17, even into 2018.
The glory years. Have you ever had a gut instinct that something's going to go wrong?
With guests or clients, or with crew?
Boat, guests, clients, or crew?
You can you can kind of tell you can tell if when a crew member is sort of thinking about leaving. You can see there's a shift in the body language, or there's a shift in the attitude a bit, where, okay, look, we're going to lose this guy at the end of the year, or this girl at the end of the year. In terms of owners, I don't know. They're all multi-billionaires, right? So they're elevated to that almost God status, so they think they can, and they bloody well can do whatever they want. So the random course changes, if you want to call it that, or, hey, no, we're not going to the Caribbean this year, we're going to the Maldives, and I want you to leave tomorrow, that sort of thing. It's hard to predict that, So yeah, that's happened. Could we predict that? No, but in terms of crew personalities, it's, you kind of know what's going on. You get the feeling.
And what about in terms of accidents and boat breakages? Have you ever had a gut feeling that?
No, I mean, our plan mainly, I was going to say that next, in terms of mechanical breakdowns. No, we've got to always have had a pretty solid planned maintenance program. We know, end of life on a lot of the stuff, and we've kept ahead of it. Unfortunately, the 3 owners I've had in 40 years have been good enough to, give us sufficient budgets to cover that. So, there's, you have a catastrophic failure of, we did have that happen once, but you couldn't pick it. We had a shaft failure, coupling, cooling system on the shafts go, which put us out of action for a couple of months, but you can't see that coming. But so generally, mechanical breakdowns, no, we've kept on top of that because we've had a good planned maintenance set up and a good budget to cover it, and we get enough time between seasons to do the maintenance that we need to do.
And have you ever had a major incident in terms of injuries or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
yep.
How
yeah, we had a goal.
Yeah, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, we had a goal. Yeah, we had a goal. I won't go into the details of how it happened, but we had a goal one of the stews on board had fractured two vertebrae in her neck, and that we were at the time we were anchored off Bonifacio there, and this happened at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we ended up getting her. It was a medevac situation, so we ended up the team on board the boat got her on a backboard and got her out of that situation, and then the medevac helicopter. Obviously, we didn't have a pad on that boat, but the Coast Guard came out and we transferred her to the Coast Guard boat, who took her into the helipad. And they, fortunately, there was a neurosurgeon up in Bastia on the northeast corner of Corsica, and he was just there for that weekend, and he did the operation there. But that, the procedure of diagnosing what had happened to her, and then getting her on the backboard, and it was just like a training exercise that you and I have done many, many, many times, and something that we train for at least once a month. Our medical training on board is extensive, and that paid off. Everyone just sort of clicked in, and it was like, okay, let's. But she ended up being fine. But that was like a tricky one, because you try and get someone on a backboard in one of these cabins, and she was. She'd gone into a cabin and she was on all fours. It happened on deck, and she wasn't feeling well, and she went downstairs. But she went into the sort of fetal, into the doggy position behind the door. So we couldn't open the door to get in there, and she couldn't move. So we sort of like crack the door this much and shimmy in and get the backboard in there. And Bev was in there with one of the chefs, was a skinny guy, and he was in there too, and get her on the backboard, and then we maneuver her around, open the door, and take her out. So that was probably the most difficult and the most significant injury we've ever had. But everyone did what they were trained to do, and had a happy ending.
I always find that amazing when we've had medical incidents on board, that if you have trained for it or something similar, it nearly does feel like a drill, and it drastically reduces the stress from the situation. What would be your preferred methods of communication in a stressful situation like that?
What intership communications, or
how do you communicate with the crew and keep and calm the farm, so to speak, and keep everything as relaxed as possible in a dire situation?
Yeah, just the same way we do it in drills. There wasn't any different. We just, there was, in the drills, there's no chirp on the radio from the guys. You're focusing on, the priority is the medical drill. So, you don't get people, deckhands, asking for assistance in the tender garage to do something, No, it was on our sort of private UHF channel, which most of the yachts have. Comms with external assistance is always by phone, either cell phone or satellite phone. We tried to, we always have kept it off the VHF, unless the Coast Guard or somebody is calling you on the VHF. We keep it as private as we can. But internally on board the vessel, just with the UHFs, and everyone, as I said, they train that way. So we just did it as a training exercise, follow the training that we've been through many, many times.
Fantastic. So after a major incident like that, what can you, how did you approach resilience? Did you do anything differently? Did you consciously change or upgrade your methods after dealing with such a crazy situation?
Yeah, we did. We tightened up on crew activities after hours. Does that answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, what I've taken from today is how carefully you choose your crew, and then you consciously build your team from the ground up, making sure that you would want to be in a life raft with someone, meaning that that's the sort of person that you could also sit down and have a beer with, or that could handle themselves in the face of adversity and be a team player. And that you really create an environment where there's a lot of trust, the communication's good, and you get down, you don't just sit on the 5th floor and order your lattes, you actually get down in the trenches, so to speak, and get to know everyone. So yeah, what message would you like to convey to people in yachting in terms of resilience, if you could impart your final words of wisdom?
I think just I don't know, everybody's different, I know there's a lot of captains out there that don't do it the way I do it, but I think the team that you have on board are really important. Yeah, choose them carefully, communicate with them, make sure that they know what their job description is and how they're doing. Like I said, you go down to the laundry and talk to the laundry guy. You don't have to do it every day, but you have to give that and talk to the deckhands and talk to the stews, and then everybody on board the boat sees, hey, that guy's down there talking to the lowest the lowest rung on the ladder. What's he doing that for? Oh, okay, then I think they feel like, well, shit, if he's talking to him, then if I've got a problem, I just want to portray that I'm approachable, and if I see somebody, like one of the sort of senior guys treating the junior guys badly, I'll pull them aside and have a talk to them, and I won't sort of scold them, but I'll talk to them in such a way that go, hey, look, this is the way I deal with things. This is the way I deal with situations, and maybe you can learn from that. That they're human being, and they're important too. I don't know. I think you've got to talk to everybody, as I said, and make sure that everybody is aware that you are approachable, and your door is always open, So
I think that's brilliant, and it definitely shows as a regular contractor on your vessels that you really get that feeling. So credit to you.
Oh, look, yeah, I mean, you see it, right? You walk onto a boat, you would have the you would have this gift. You walk onto the boat, any boat, and within a few minutes, you can smell whether it's a well-run boat or not. You can smell whether the crew like the captain, or the chief stew's a bitch, or whatever, or if there are any issues on it. I walk onto her, and you can tell if it's a well-run boat. Then the crew are very chilled. Hey, Cap, how you doing? And they just walk. But if people are walking around like they're on eggshells, you think, wow. Anyway, that's just a little side comment.
No, I absolutely agree, which is why I wanted to interview you particularly. So thanks so much for your time today. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, no worries.
It's been a great interview.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to catch up.
Thank you.